We are trying to affect American gun politics. We're completely committed to what we're doing.
29-year-old Cody Wilson is taking aim at gun control.
We will make this a reality.
He's trying to forge a new future for firearms by removing the barriers for access and ownership.
We will force a kind of respect, political or otherwise, upon the people's free and universal access to arms.
Wilson made history by developing the first 3D printed single-shot handgun in 2013.
You release your trigger.
His mission is to create the world's first wiki weapon and share the plans of the 3D printed gun on the internet.
We were shut down like 2 days after that pistol was developed and then released.
As he continues fighting the State Department in court, his company, Defense Distributed in Austin, launched a new operation.
The government will shut down one project, we start up another.
Here, Wilson makes and sells what he calls the Ghost Gunner milling machine. This machine precisely drills holes in a metal piece called a lower receiver, so you can build an AR-15 rifle in your garage.
I feel confident that there are at least 20,000 AR-15s out there that wouldn't be out there without this machine. And there's no strings on them, right? You don't know where they are.
You don't know where they are because the government can't track this weapon. Cody Wilson's machine mills out this section, the trigger mechanism. You can buy the rest of the gun off the internet. No serial number, no background check, and it's perfectly legal. But ATF says they are concerned about these weapons.
Our job is harder because it's impossible for us to figure out where it came from.
Are you starting to see ghost guns show up at crime scenes?
Yes, we are starting to see them here in Texas. If it shows up on a murder scene, we don't have any way of going back to see who originally purchased that gun and then track it to, hopefully, the person who pulled that trigger. Any gun, without a serial number that's untraceable is a concern of ours, and it should be a concern for the public.
They should be. ATF should be concerned.
Wilson says it's inevitable that ghost guns will end up at crime scenes, and he says there are not a lot of them out there yet.
It's still completely outside the norm for gun crime to involve these types of weapons.
But he welcomes the controversy.
This is thoroughly an enjoyable thing. And it's kind of like playing Battleship. I mean, when I see fire, when I see the government bureaucrats kind of scatter and stuff, I know that I'm onto something.
As Wilson continues to promote the decentralized distribution of weapons, he says there are new plans in the works for the Ghost Gunner machine. And as far as what's next?
Look, if I was to answer that question honestly, that would be a problem. I want something truly, truly fundamental shifted in the internet. This is about to be for keeps, and I'm about to make it, and no one's even trying to really stop me.
We were heading home after a long day. I had the kids in the car, going about 60 miles an hour. Next thing we know, bam, deer comes running up, hits my mirror, spins around, hits the back right here. I have no idea what happened to the deer after that. As soon as we stopped, he was gone.
Corey Norris thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime bump.
Ouch.
With bad luck.
And then 2 weeks later, I was out in the same area.
And it happened again.
The truck oncoming had their brights on. As soon as his truck passed my eyes, the doe was standing right there, and I hit it head on.
Corey's collisions happened this spring. To her, that's the most dangerous time of year. But State Farm ran the numbers.
Mating season.
And Jesse McConchy says November has the most deer collisions.
The best thing you can do is brake and do not swerve to miss the deer.
Logically, it makes sense because most swerves will take you head on into oncoming traffic or off the road and into a ditch. But realistically, we questioned if drivers could keep the wheel straight if a deer was front and center. So we took an inflatable deer, positioned it in the middle of a deserted road, and I swerved, even with only $20 in plastic at stake. That was my first instinct, but according to State Farm research, I need a different mindset. Hit the brakes, keep the wheel straight, and brace for impact.
It is better to hit the deer, much less damage.
The average claim from hitting a deer is $4,000, and it won't count against you on your insurance record. Corey didn't swerve.
So I've got a couple bumps and bruises here.
And she thinks that might have saved her life.
Definitely don't swerve. You're probably going to hit the deer regardless. It's probably safer to just get it over with. and hope that it doesn't go through your windshield.
Betty Cross, CBS Austin News.
Now here we're going on 23 years. This should have been done a long time ago.
In the tiny Texas town of Mount Calm, private investigator William Deere is stirring up a storm of evidence in one of America's most high-profile crimes.
My quest now, and has always been in this case, is to seek justice.
That quest came to life 1,500 miles from the LA crime scene at the end of this dusty country road, on an eccentric ranch, in this giant warehouse.
This is what we accumulated in the O.J. Simpson investigation.
Almost every inch of this warehouse contains evidence pointing to what Deere calls the one overlooked suspect in the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman.
Which happens to be O.J. Simpson's son, Jason Lamar Simpson.
How did you get Jason Simpson's Jeep?
We watched it for a period of time after the murders when he put it into storage, hiding it, and then he sold it to a friend, and we had a friend of ours buy it.
And he's been begging the Los Angeles Police Department to collect DNA samples from it and investigate it ever since. So you have the Jeep.
Yes.
But what's in this box?
What's in this box contains the most crucial piece of evidence that we needed in this investigation, and that's, to us, the murder weapon.
Deere says he obtained a box in Jason Simpson's storage unit in L.A. when it went up for auction because of lack of payment.
And in that box, at the bottom of it, was this knife, a replica of a Gerber Mark V designed for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to cut and to kill. You can see the top of the survival knife has been removed. It matches the lacerations on the top of Nicole Simpson's skull.
He says Jason Simpson was enraged the night of the murders because Nicole Brown Simpson canceled dinner reservations at the last minute at the restaurant where Jason, a chef, was going to prepare a meal for the family.
If you have a son who's 24, 5'11", 235, and on probation for assaulting his previous employer with a knife, who's been in a psychiatric unit, who was taking Depakote to control his rage disorder, who had attacked 2 women, and you don't interview him, that's a sad miscarriage of justice.
And this knit cap? And then there's the black knit cap.
This kind of a cap was found at the crime scene, and it contained hair from an animal and hair that was not O.J. Simpson's. But when you look at this picture up there, there's Jason Lamar Simpson in bed wrestling with his dog. Similar cap, if not the exact same cap found at the crime scene.
Deere says the LAPD won't test the hair follicles in the cap and compare them to Jason Simpson's DNA.
These are all part of the O.J. Simpson investigation.
From boxes and boxes of evidence.
It's the year of the knife for me.
To Jason Simpson's diaries.
It could have been very instrumental in helping the LAPD solve this unsolved case.
Deere is pleading with detectives just to take another look. What do you say to the people that are watching this, who watched the trial of the century? They're going to say, this guy's just crazy. Can we believe him?
I've been inducted into the Police Officers Hall of Fame as a private investigator, one of the only ones that's been inducted. I'm pro-policeman. This is my nickel. I spent the money. Nobody's paid me. Nobody's coerced me in any way whatsoever. I have nothing to gain other than the fact I'm trying to bring truth, which nobody got a chance to see during the trial.
Deere says he'll continue to go down this road, collecting evidence and prodding the LAPD to look at O.J.'s son.
They want me to go away. I'm not going away, Walt. I've been here for 23 years, and I'm going to go until the day I die.
And he wants to send a message to Jason Simpson.
I'd like to sit down with him, look him square in the eye, and tell him, you ruined your dad's life. You've ruined yours. Finally man up to what you've done so that you can live with yourself.
Ready? Okay, here we go. We're going up.
To help you drive up your fuel efficiency
Backing out.
and lower your gas bill,
Going down.
this race car driver is unloading his souped-up Lotus.
And brake.
This is the kind of car that demands the highest quality race fuel.
Engine start.
But Bill Dollahite says if you're not cornering hard at top speeds, you'll never notice the difference between premium and regular gas.
High performance car? Yes. Normal cars driving on the street?
won't make a difference.
Bill fuels a fleet of cars at Driveway Austin.
This is real race fuel.
It cost $13 a gallon, and the pro thinks it's worth every cent. But he thinks most drivers should pinch pennies when they're at the pump.
If you can pay 10 cents, 20 cents a gallon less for a fuel that does exactly the same thing, why not do that?
We did a price check, and the difference between regular and Supreme is growing. At this station, it's $2.12 versus $2.75. Across the street, $2.15 versus $2.75. A 60-cent difference the AAA says is a waste for many drivers.
It's not going to increase horsepower, it's not going to lower emissions, and it's not going to make it perform any better than how it would on the regular.
AAA used a dynamometer, which is essentially a treadmill for cars, to evaluate the effects of using a higher octane fuel when it's not required. The cars were put on the treadmill twice with both regular and premium gas. While the belts turned, AAA measured horsepower, fuel economy, and tailpipe emissions. The lab test found no significant difference in any category.
There's no need to pay for a higher fuel if your owner's manual is telling you that you're fine with regular.
But while premium gas can be empty on promise, AAA says top-tier gas, which cost an average of 3 cents more a gallon, is worth the extra price. That's because extra engine cleaning additives get rid of more gunk that builds up on intake valves.
So we're talking about detergents that help that fuel burn cleaner and keep the components of your engine running smoother.
This race car driver likes the cleaner burning fuels. But when Bill isn't on the track, he's not about to let Supreme gas gain any ground on regular.
I use the lowest grade, most cost-effective fuel I can put in. And it loves it.
Betty Cross, CBS Austin News.
This is the Colt 45. There's no markings, there's no identifying maker's marks. This is a Ghost.
This homemade handgun could change the gun control debate.
You can make this now. That's a big deal. I think it changes American gun politics. The public doesn't understand yet. It's here, and you can do it.
29-year-old Cody Wilson just made it easier than ever for anyone to own a handgun, regardless of felonies, a domestic violence charge, or a restraining order. With very little skill, Wilson says you can make a gun using his CNC milling machine.
It's cheap, it's quick.
Called the Ghost Gunner.
We're not just talking about one handgun, we're talking about all handguns at the end of the day.
The machine comes with programmable software that precisely drills the rails and holes needed to make this piece of aluminum, called an 80% frame, ready to be assembled into a handgun. The trigger, slide, and the rest of the components can be purchased on the internet.
The original goal of Ghost Gunner was to get to a handgun, because that's concealable. The 1911, the most popular handgun of all time, and the Glock.
But not everyone is excited about it. Law enforcement has no idea this gun exists. You can make this in your garage with a Ghost Gunner machine. No background check, no serial number. This is a Ghost Gun.
The only purpose for a serial number is to trace a gun back if it's found in a crime scene, but it's untraceable, so we have nowhere to start to go back to trace that firearm.
ATF traces about 300,000 crime guns a year with one goal.
Track it and find out how the trigger puller got his hands or her hands on that firearm.
But with an unserialized Ghost Gun,
Yet it's impossible.
My question would be why?
Austin Police Chief Brian Manley says these guns are making law enforcement's job more difficult.
I just have to ask why. Those that are legally authorized to own weapons can very easily go and purchase them at local gun stores or at trade shows.
It's attuned to throwing gasoline on the fire.
Texas Gun Sense Vice Chair Ed Scruggs says it's only a matter of time before more of these ghost guns start showing up at crime scenes.
The primary goal of a handgun is to kill a person, whether that be in self-defense or in the commission of a crime. The proliferation of untraceable handguns has an astronomical dangerous aspect to it. For the most part, it's flying under the radar.
I mean, I'm not here to comfort you, man. We fundamentally disagree. It's still so unusual to see someone use a homemade gun in a crime.
What do you say to the people that are afraid of you and your machine?
Boo. It says American as apple pie, to make a gun for yourself and to help other people make it. I'll do everything I can to make this a useful tool and fling it all over this country until this government submits.
One more.
In life, we're pulled in every direction. Sometimes the load gets heavy. For Missy Calkins,
I was very sheltered and scared about a lot of things.
Childhood was heaviest.
I grew up and not always felt safe in my home.
The past for Missy just prepared her for more challenges. But these challenges, she chooses. As barbells drop,
75.
the weight she lifts
290 pounds.
climbs.
As it gets heavier and heavier, you'll find more people coming over to like cheer you on.
That encouragement tasted like hope and turned into strength and into confidence. Missy knew she couldn't keep it to herself. She began encouraging other women to get stronger, both physically and emotionally. She then created Lift Her, a nonprofit asking for pledges, cents or dollars for every pound lifted in competition.
Come on, Becky! Come on, Becky!
Competition is nothing new to fellow weightlifter Rebecca Foster. Medals, trophies, her name etched in gold.
It was one of those things that I started doing it and I was like good at it. You know?
Good at it, good at something. It was a feeling of worth she hadn't felt in a while.
It's something that helped me take back something that was stolen from me. It helped me reclaim my power in life, my sense of self, my destiny. And that was something that, you know, had been stripped away from me.
Rebecca was physically and emotionally abused by her husband for years. It took what could have been the end.
My ex was holding me down, choking me, and I was fighting as hard as I could
to create her beginning.
And I realized at one point that I was so weak and he was so strong and I was absolutely powerless. And there was nothing I could do.
In the midst of her unconsciousness, Rebecca was awakened.
And I never wanted to feel that powerless, that weak again. And I haven't. I love you.
Now a part of Lift Her, Rebecca, alongside Missy, lifts for others. Pledges for Missy's next meet will go somewhere close to both of their hearts. Safe Place Austin.
It's literally the funds to keep the lights on in our emergency shelter and to continue to provide childcare for folks who are in our supportive housing program.
Director of Development Lauren Zerbrug says more than half of the operating budget comes from gifts and donations. 300 people, many children on any given day, have shelter because of it.
It truly takes the whole village, the whole Austin community.
It's what keeps Missy and Rebecca pushing for more. Keeps them steady and focused. It's more than a heavy load. Each lift lifts her.
Missy making all the guys in here look bad.
Sarah Navoy, CBS Austin News.